What's up, nerds? My name is Cory Bergeron. You are watching Cory Bergeron Recordings, and we are back with another episode of In the Mix, a video series where I jump into the Pro Tools session of a song that I have worked on and kind of go through all the nerdy details and tell you how it came to be. With me on today's episode, I actually have the artist of the song that we're going to be doing the In the Mix on with me, and that's Mr. Redlight Blue.
Hi.
So if you did not know, this is my friend, and he also has a YouTube channel, and he's been learning how to play guitar over the last couple of years. Recently, last week, we started working on a song, and within a couple of days, it was released to the world, and that is your first professional song.
That's my first professional song. Okay. I tried making a few by myself, and they weren't professional, but this one is.
So in front of me, I have the Pro Tools session, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about how the whole thing came to be. The song was recorded in less than 48 hours, right here, right where I'm sitting, with a 57 and a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. We did also track drums that we did at Pebble Studios across the street, and this is it. I'm going to start going through the track, and then at any point, if you have any questions or anything that you want to talk about, we'll do that. I will leave a link at the top of the description. Go listen to the song in its entirety so all of this makes sense.
Check it out on Spotify. Save it to your playlist. And Apple Music.
For those of you who are too lazy to do all of that, I'm going to play from halfway through the second verse into the second chorus, and then you'll get an idea of that, and then we'll start jumping into everything.
Last I met you, I upset you. Regret to cause you pain. Then I meant to just forget you. Bet you did the same. I'm not who I used to be. Passing days, my changing age have swayed out our sea. We've got our memories where they belong. We have moved on from you and me. We're not who we used to be. Only miss you when I'm with you, but it can't be.
Okay, so as you can hear, it's kind of an acoustic song with a little bit of a production around it. Do you have a genre that you would put this into?
I put it as folk pop.
Folk pop. I think that's a fairly accurate name. You came over last week, you played the song for the first time in front of me, and then we started putting the whole thing together. When we started demoing out the track, he was having a bit of a tough time playing to a click track, so I started creating a drum beat, and off that reference drum beat that we made, we ended up actually recording real drums, and they were basically performing exactly what we had in the reference drum beat with a little bit more flair. So let's jump into the drum recording, and we'll kind of go through it top to bottom. So right here in red, we have the drum elements, and for the first half of the song, it's just a kick drum. It's a kick drum, and it sounds like a kick drum. Now, the room that we recorded in was a small room. It was at Pebble Studios, and I wanted the kick drum to sound a little larger than life, so I did add a sample. So you were listening to the drum performance with a sample there. Let me play without the drum sample, and you'll hear how funny it kind of sounds in the small room that it was recorded. So you can hear that it is way less impactful. Let me put the sample back in. Big difference. This is a sample by itself. It's a close kick sample and a room sample. So as you can hear, it's adding a little bit of top end and it's adding the reverb tail, but the actual kick drum is adding all the meat to it. So the kick drums together. That is a perfect example of using drum samples to create the illusion of a bigger room. Did you have any idea that there was a kick drum sample?
No, I didn't.
So when I made the original reference drum beat that you performed the acoustic guitar to, we had kind of a shaker in the choruses. And what Taylor, the drummer, did was ended up adding a hi-hat performance part, which I thought was really cool because it adds a little bit of a liveliness to it. The drums are not quantized 100%, so there is a lot of human feel in it still. So let me play that for you solo. This is going into chorus 1. So as you can hear, it's a real hi-hat being performed. And again, that human feel kind of translates throughout the entire track to make the whole song feel a lot more human. We didn't want to introduce a snare drum just yet because that would occupy a lot of space in the song. So this is coming out of the chorus. This is the jammy part after.
We have moved on from you and me.
You can hear that coming out of the chorus into the jammy part. We actually have the hi-hat open up just to kind of add some energy, add a different arrangement in that part. So let me play that soloed. Is that something that you heard when you listened back to the track? Later in the song, we introduce this snare roll. I didn't get Taylor to play the snare roll while he was doing the kick drum and the hi-hat part. I actually recorded it separately so I could get a really nice clean take of it and then have the two drum parts work together. So this is actually two drum performances on top of each other. The first one being just the kick drum and the hi-hat, which sounds like this. And the second one being the snare drum, which is this. Did that cross your mind at all, that could have been two performances?
Nope.
I can't think back to a time where I've kind of like done something like this, but again, it was with the objective of trying to get two really clean performances that work on top of each other. This is what both drum performances sound like together. Similar to the kick drum, we actually added a sample on the snare drum. So this is what the samples sound like. One is doing the ghost notes. And then one is doing the accents. The reason why I have them separated is so I get the snare drum ghost notes higher than the accents to have it sit properly in the mix like this. This is both of them together. That is basically it for the drums. Now I did add a crash on the one of every chorus, just a one-off crash cymbal. And that just adds a little bit of excitement. This is like a really easy production trick to just make your chorus sound good. So this is going into the chorus with everything. Just a nice clean crash cymbal. Moving down here in the baby blue, we have all the aux percussion, and that looks like this. So these are all the aux percussion tracks. We have, I call this Santa, but these are just bells. They're on the 2 and 4 in the second chorus. You can see that I experimented with putting them on every single beat, but it's kind of there to replace a snare drum. Moving down, we have a shaker. Again, just a little arrangement lift. It comes in on the chorus just to kind of make everything exciting. Over here, we also have a tambourine that comes in towards the end of the song. Those three elements together. Now here's something that might be interesting to someone. I didn't record these for this song. I recorded these for other songs, and I just have samples of these performances, and I stretched them in time to this song. Yeah, they sound good, so we kept them in there. So moving forward, we have these cymbal swells here that we recorded for a Locket song a couple years back, and I love the way these things sound, so I threw these leading into the chorus. I love the way those things sound. And all together it sounds like this. Very simple, easy to understand. And the same thing goes for this down here. This is a little floor tom swell. And together with the swells, we have... Throw all the aux percussion in together with the drums, and this is what we have built so far in the rhythm section. So there you go. That is the foundation of the track, and that was all basically built not too long after we tracked the guitar scratch, just to kind of get the song feeling the way that we wanted it to feel. Is there anything in there that you didn't realize was in the final production?
All of it.
Yeah, when we were working on this, we were like, working super fast. We didn't have like a tight deadline, but we were just having fun working on it. So it was a lot of just like trial and error, and anything that worked just kind of stuck, and we just kind of built on top of it, and we seemed to put the pieces in the right place pretty quickly. So moving down here, we have, in yellow here, we have the bass guitar. Now this is probably the least exciting part of this entire production. I picked up my bass guitar that's like right beside me right now, and I just played the root notes of the chords, DI, and threw a compressor on it and called it a day. Life-changing. Any thoughts on the bass guitar?
No.
Just to recap, the rhythm section. All the drums, the aux percussion, and the bass guitar. Here we go. I guess the only notable thing to talk about with the bass guitar is the fact that we only tracked it in the choruses to just kind of add an arrangement lift, to kind of fill up a space in the chorus to make the song feel big, and then it drops out during the verses. Production gets smaller, and then that gives you the dynamic within the song to kind of bring the energy up and to bring it back down. Okay, moving forward here, in orange, we have this acoustic guitar. Now we tracked on a Martin. It was tracked in this basement. This basement is not a great sounding tracking room, so we just kind of close mic'd it. And the only thing to really note is that we tracked the acoustic guitar stereo in the chorus and panned them left, right, and in the verses we just panned it center. Again, just another thing to make the track dynamic, to add some width in the chorus, make it sound bigger. So this is what the acoustic guitar sounds like. That's an acoustic guitar. We used a soft pick just to make sure that the strums were like really nice and consistent. I find it's easier to sit in a mix if you use a soft pick. It doesn't pull the strings out of tune. And actually, let me show you this. This is a really good example of how bad something can sound and then how you can change it in post. This is the acoustic guitar with no plugins on it. It doesn't sound necessarily bad by itself, but it's definitely dull. It's definitely a little too dynamic that it wouldn't fit properly in the mix. So I found with this acoustic guitar, the goal of it was to kind of like get it out of the way. So I did a lot of cutting out the lows to make it sit properly in the mix. I compressed it, and then I compressed it again, and then I took out more low end, and then I compressed it again, and then I took out more low end, and then finally I was at a point where I was satisfied with it. At the end I threw this little micro shift on it just to add a little bit of stereo width so it's not competing too much with the vocal up front. But that is the verse acoustic guitar. And again with no plugins.
Is there a reason you would like take out low end and then compress and then do that over again?
The reason why I want to compress it after I cut out the low end is so the low end isn't hitting the compressor and like eating up a ton of space. And the reason why I'm compressing it is so I can get it to sit in one spot in the mix. You're trying to make it fit inside the mix. It's one of those things that you can do your best to make it sound the way you want by itself, but it's all contextual. So once I heard it in context, I probably kept tweaking it more and more and more. And that brings us to here where we have the drums, the aux percussion, the bass, and the acoustic guitar, and it sounds like this. Hear how separate that acoustic guitar sounds from the kick drum. It sounds like it's in front of it, sounds like it's on top of it. If I take out all these plugins and play it, sounds not very good. So get it bright, get the low end out of the way, get it sitting where you want, and move forward. In the chorus here, I copied over the settings and I just panned it left, right, and it sounds like this. Everything together at that point sounds like this. In the chorus, there is one track of electric guitar, and this is just the root notes with a harmony, and it's just kind of plucking along. It adds a rhythmic element as well as it adds some harmony and just another arrangement lift to make the chorus pop. Again, this is compressed to hell and back, so it sits really well in the mix. I remember when I first started playing this, your like eyes lit up. You were like, yo, I really like that. I used my Evertune, which was great because I didn't have to tune the guitar. This idea from the idea of it to being tracked, didn't take longer than... actually, it did probably take about 10 minutes because I had to retrack it like 10 times because I was struggling to play it. But just a quick idea that kind of floats throughout the entire chorus, drops out in the verses, so it goes back to the guitar, the vocal, and the drums. Remember this sound? When I first heard the song, we were kind of structuring it out, and you had written the song with like an introduction that was just like 4 chords, and I was like, okay, that's cool. We should put some sort of melody on it just to kind of like make it attractive from the start, and we should make it a theme that's similar to the vocals, and we should have that repeat a couple times throughout the song. You were game for it, and I just pulled out a keyboard to write a melody, but I really ended up liking one of the sounds that we had on it. So in classic Corey fashion, I like to work fast, so I just like laid it down. Now we also layered that with a vocal to just kind of like make it its own sound. So it wasn't just a synth, it wasn't just a vocal. It's kind of the two elements together and with a lot of reverb, and it kind of makes this cool little melody part. Do you think going forward in like future songs that you'll have this kind of awareness of trying to have no dead space in the song? Like instead of the song just opening with 4 chords, you can now like create a vocal hook. It doesn't even need words or anything. It's just something hooky. Is that something you're going to apply to future songs?
Maybe. I don't know if like, is that always something you want to do? I feel like in this case it worked, but sometimes like minimalism, right?
Well, it depends on what you're going for. The way I kind of generally work on things is making things like airtight. So it's like anything you do creatively.
There's nothing. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, you're always trying to like keep it hooky. Obviously keeping the integrity of the song. We're not like forcing anything here. Before we get into all the vocals, there's a couple little fun things that we did. In the second verse, I wanted to add some other arrangement lifts just to keep the song interesting and feeling like it's moving forward. What I did is I pulled up the same keyboard that I made that little riff with, and I ran it into this reverb plugin, and then I just started playing with the volume knob and playing random notes, and it made this sound. And in context, that sounds a lot like this. Did you have any idea that was there?
No.
So again, the whole point of that, and this is something that a lot of people can take away if you're like working on a song and you're trying to keep it interesting, is I like to make sure the song always feels like it's like
growing.
It's going somewhere. It's going towards something. So if you have a familiar part, like a verse that's already happened, and you're trying to make the second verse a little interesting, you can add subtle little details like this to build up the arrangement and make it cooler. And another thing we added in that second verse section is this little string part, which is a free plugin from Spitfire Audio that I downloaded a while ago. And I just had a little hot cross buns. You gotta keep it simple. So listen to how this all comes together, just the instrumentation. Listen to how it transitions into the second half of the second verse. So it really brings you into that second chorus. There's a distinction between the first half of the second verse and the second half. And it, again, just keeps the song feel like it's moving forward. It's got this really natural flow to it, which is really nice. Talking about the strings, when the snare part comes in on the second half of the second chorus, we got these strings. I remember when we were making this idea that I was like a little self-conscious about it, so I like made it in headphones, and then I played it. What do you think? And you're like, yo, I really like that. And then we kind of built around it. This, again, came very early on in the process, maybe like an hour or two working into the song. And it's cool.
That's cool.
It's nothing crazy. It's just like following the chord progression, then kind of adding a little bit of a melody on top of it. And just having that under the mix a little bit adds a lot to keeping the song interesting, a lot of subtle moves. You get the picture. Let's shrink all of this stuff and move on to the vocals. How was recording the vocals?
It was good. Corey helped a lot with his computer magic. Corey made it comfortable to record. You know, good lighting, good water when needed, coffee when needed. There was a lot of positive reinforcement, so I didn't feel self-conscious. It was good. It was good.
I think what's really important to getting an effective vocal is obviously the take, tuning, the timing, the energy, all those things, but also the arrangement. So this is something where I kind of had an idea of how I wanted the song to be arranged from the get-go. So we had in the verses 2 vocals, and they're panned just a little off-center here, and we just have them together. You ready for this? I'm going to solo your vocals and play them.
I don't know what else to say. I wouldn't say you're just a stranger. The feeling's hard to place. Last time I met you, I upset you. Regret to cause you pain.
So you can hear
Auto-tune.
You can hear that it's been tuned a little bit, but there's still some variation within the takes, and just having that like double vocal kind of has an aesthetic to it, and I think that works really well with this kind of song. So that was what we did in the verses. 2 performances, super tight, and just kind of pan them a little bit off center. And then going into the chorus, this is how I usually do a chorus. I like to track 3 main parts, and what I do with that is pan 1 center, and then 1 left, right, and this is what the 3 main chorus vocals sound like.
I'm not who I used to be. Passing days, my changing age have swayed how I see.
Same idea, tightly tuned, tightly recorded and performed. And then this was a lot of fun. So the first part of the song that we actually recorded was the chorus, because we just knew that was like concrete and we're gonna lock it in. And after we recorded the main vocals, I was like, yo, we should do some harmonies. I'm like, do you have anything in mind? And you're like, I've never recorded harmonies. I was like, okay, I got some ideas. Let me like make them with Melodyne in the computer, and then we can play it back and go from there. But we ended up making them, and we liked the way they sounded, so we just kind of kept them. So let me play you without changing anything. These are just the harmonies.
I'm not who I used to be. Passing days, my changing age has swayed how I see.
So you can hear, definitely sounds a little robotic and digital. And what that is it's actually you singing the main melody, and then I pitched it down to create a harmony out of it, which sounds like this.
I'm not who I used to be. Passing days,
You can tell that the farther it gets away from the melody, the more robotic it sounds. And then I pitched it up an octave, and it kind of blended in, sounds like a falsetto.
I'm not who I used to be. Passing days, my changing age have swayed how I see. We've got our memories.
And we just decided that sounds good enough. Who cares? And we left those in there. So that was kind of a fun little creative trick and tool.
What effects did you have on the vocals?
I have the background vocals all going to...
We've got our memories.
Just going to reverb and delay.
That's
and
it.
again, I was working fast. The plugins that I used while we were tracking is like what made the final mix. So it's just a reverb and a quarter note delay. That's why you hear, after the words are finished, you hear the words delay a little bit. So
We've got our memories.
okay, so that's on the backing vocals. On the main vocal, I just have
We've got our memories.
a tight little plate reverb. Like honestly, not that much. That's
We've got our memories.
and then on all the vocals, they're all routed here. There's a tight little slapback and a reverb. So this is fun. I put you on the spot, and I was like, yo, sing. Just like sing some ad-libbed parts. So you sang some of the repeating lines, and I just made it sound kind of lo-fi and threw some effects on it just to kind of have it wash in.
You and me.
So in the track, that sounds like. Again, just something little to kind of give the outro its own specific part in the song, and it kind of makes it feel like an outro. That's basically it. There isn't a whole lot to this. It's a pretty small production. Again, created over the course of like 48 hours. Bunch of small elements thrown together. You and I bouncing ideas off each other and making a song. Now, when you had the goal of coming here to make this song, is this what you pictured it turning out to be?
No.
In a good way, in a bad way?
And it turned out way better, I would say. Way better.
Were you amazed at how fast it came together?
Yeah. It took like no time. No, and honestly, I feel like a lot of it is me just like trusting you. You saying, hey,
Yeah.
do this. And then I'd go, okay. And then, I don't know, you'd make it work in the mix. You know? I wasn't like trying to argue with you on anything.
What was one of your biggest takeaways or things you thought were interesting or things that happened that you didn't think that's how things happened or whatever?
Well, the live drum made like a massive difference.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just like the human feel to it. I feel like you also probably, there was mixing incorporated between day 1 and 2 when I came back. Yeah, auto-tune. Crazy. I don't know, the creative use of effects, like running like an amp effect maybe. I don't know if it was an amp effect, but over the vocals at the end to like get a distortion.
Yeah.
That's cool, just thinking outside the box with that. How like subtleties can help bring it to life.
Yeah.
Like just like in the second verse there, like the whatever it was.
Yeah.
I don't know, it makes a massive difference, even though they're like really faint, subtle details that I don't even notice listening to the song. It's really cool.
Now, after going through and creating this song, is this going to influence how you write your next songs?
Well, the most surprising thing is kind of how little it actually takes
Yeah.
to have such a huge like professional sound.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need like 200 layers.
Yes.
Like some productions to just have this.
Do you think you're ready to mix your first song? Yo, that's
Make
what we should
another
do.
video?
That's what we should do. The next song we
Mix
do,
my own one.
you try and mix it. That'd be so funny. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna end the video here. Thank you very much for being here, and it was a lot of fun working on the song. We made it last week, and it's already out. If you have not checked it out, well, this video probably made no sense to you because the whole point of this video was to dissect the song.
Save it on Spotify. Share it.
Save it on
Go
Spotify
everywhere.
and share it in that order. And if you haven't yet, make sure to go subscribe to the Redlight Blue channel and
Is there anything that surprised you?
comment. Create more. I will see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye-bye.